Okay, so let's look at next topic, which is exception handling. What is exception handling? Like, suppose you are executing a program and you can encounter some kind of error in your program, right? So such a situation is known as exception handling. So let's take a look at a small program here. So let me close all this. Okay, I will go to view project. So all this code is available in Bitbucket for you to play around with. Okay, so let's say I create a file and I'll call it 11. Okay, let me delete all this and let me delete all this. Okay, now in this program what I am simply doing is I'm saying var equal to 10 divided by 0, right? So what will happen, let's say after this, okay, before this I'm saying print BEFORE, and after that I'm saying PRINT AFTER. So let's try to execute this program and see what happens. Right click, run as. So I get before, but anything that is any piece of code that is after the line number 2 will not get executed, right? So it is basically terminating our program. Now, generally, it is not a good idea to let your program terminate abruptly. Maybe because after the line number 2, there still might be some statements which are important part of your code which needs to be executed, right? So we can address such a problem with the help of try catch block, which is with try colon and then except and the kind of error which is happening, right? Now if you will see, there is a link I'll share with you. So I'll mail this link to you in some time. Okay, so this is the link with me. So in Python, these are the various exceptions, different type of exception hierarchy which is available. So one of them is zero division error, right? So that is what I have exactly done here, is that I have a try and then except zero division error. So whenever there is a problem, so let's try to do it for this piece of code of ours. So I'll say try colon and then I'll perform the operation which I'm performing here, right? And then after that I will say exe except of which one, it is zero division error. I'll copy this and I'll put it here colon. Okay, and here I'll say print division, I'll say division by 0 is not allowed, right? WED, right? Now if I put this try and except block here, what will happen is that whenever there is a problem happening here, the control will get transferred to line number 6, right? If there is a print statement here, print, I'll say after division by 0, right? So since there is a problem at line number 4, 5 will never execute. This line number 5 will never execute. Control will come to the line number 6 and it will display this value for me, isn't it? And after that, whatever is there, it will be properly executed. So the program is not abruptly terminating like it was in the case when there was no try and except block here, right? So let's try to run this program now and see how it works. Before, which is coming from here, then divide by 0 is happening. So because of that, line number 5 is not executed, right? So let's say I make it first of all normal, a regular division without divide by 0. So if I run it, it will give before, then it will give after division by 0 this line, because this did not cause any problem, it will execute line 5. And then since exception did not happen, so it will never come to this block, right? And it will display after for me. Now let's say if I change it back to 0 and say I right click run as this, So it is before division by 0 is not allowed, because of the error in this line, the control will get transferred to this block, and therefore it will display print here and then the value after the print, right? So this is a concept of try and except exception handling in Python, and there are different kinds of error that can happen. Okay, so I'll share this link with you. You can check out, and there are a number of them. So in our case, it is divide by zero division error. Now, one interesting thing you should observe here is that if I did not put zero division error, I can as well put superclass of this as arithmetic error, right? Yes, because division by 0 is arithmetic error, there also it will come to this except block. Is that right? So if I run this program here, right click, run as, it is still coming here. But what if I put a, let's say, attribute error? So it will not handle it, isn't it? Right? Because it is in a different hierarchy altogether. We'll talk about extending one class from another class when we look at classes in the next session on coming weekend. So let's run this program. So here same problem happened, because the problem which happened at line number 4 is not handled by attribute error, what you say, block, except attribute error, isn't it? So it should be one of the exceptions in the hierarchy which can address divide by 0 error, right? Zero division error. So it could be this one or this one, or the supermost class, which is an exception class, right? So can you please try this program? And I'm also sending that link to you, so please try to make some changes from this link as I was showing to you, and see how it works. Okay, so this is one example which we have looked at. Now let's say this is a program of reading from a file which we have already looked at. So I don't have a file by this name, so if I run this, I'll get a file not found error, right? So in this hierarchy which I had shown to you a little while back, so let's look at it again. So what was that? File not found error, isn't it? So what we can do is, a good way of when you are performing an operation is try, and we can move this whole thing in the try block, right? And then except, and which one we want to do? File not found, right? Right? And here I'll say as, okay, let's not make it as here, but for now let's put it like this only. And here I'll say print the, for example, the file does not exist, right? So let's try to run this program again, and we'll see the file does not exist, right? So this is how we address different kind of exceptions. Now, for example, let's say if I use a generic exception, a superclass, which is this one, right? So I'll copy and paste it here. In that case, I will also try to, although it is not mandatory, but I can put here exception as E, right? Right? And after that, I can also say print of type of E. So it will tell me more details about what kind of exception has happened, right? So if I right click and run as, it is file not found error for me, isn't it? Clear? So this way, I mean, by displaying the type of an exception, you can know, even if you're catching it with a generic exception, with this type method, you can know what exact is the cause of the error in the program. So for example, not maybe if it is not this, let's say I put a multi-line comment here. Okay, so this is a multi-line comment, and I define here a equal to, this is an array where I said 10 comma 20 comma 20 comma 30, right? Now if I go ahead and print of a of 5, it is what? It is not in the range.
Value does not.
Yes, no, it is not, value does not exist. It will be an exception. So what exception? Let's see. Run. It is index error, right? Because we had exceeded the index of the array, because it is 0 1 2. Beyond that it is index error, because at that index there is no value present, right? Can you please try this program? Okay, now let me create a copy of this file, and I'll call it multipleexceptions. Okay, multiple exceptions. I'll say skip. I'll copy in multiple multipleexceptions 2 for examples. Okay, so now let me uncomment this piece of code here once again. So here there is likelihood of two kind of problems that can open, right? So I might want to catch two exceptions, isn't it? So what are the two kinds? What is file not, one is file not found and one is index exception, isn't it? So I can say except of this. So let's remove this one for now. And what is the one exception I can have? File not found. So I will go here and I will find file not found error, right? So this is one problem I can encounter, comma, index exception, index error, right? So where is my index error? So I will take this and put it here. Now whether the first one causes problem or the second one, in both the cases it will come inside here and it will say problem occurred, right? Or handle the error, for example, right? So I will, if I run this program, so this way we are able to figure out that, or rather have multiple exception handled by specifying 1 and 2 exceptions here. Yes.
So simply appropriate message.
Yes, we can. Yeah, that's right. So can you please try this one out quickly? Yes. So if problem happens here, it will terminate anything after that, right?
Right.
And it will come to except block.
Right.
Yes, that is what you are asking.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is how it will work. Now though you have, although we have put here two kind of exception, but if for either of them code comes or the control comes in the except block, how do I know whether it is this first one or the second one? So remember in the one of the case we said as and gave exception, right? So here I can say as and e, right? And then inside this I can display e, for example. So let me say e here, right? And let's try to run this program and see what happens. So it says it is no such file, right? Yes, no.
Yes.
So I know for which reason it has come here, or I can even say type. Let's see if we can try this type of the exception. So if I try to run this particular code, run, this is file not found, right? So this way you could, although you have multiple exception in the except block, but even then you could try to figure out as to whether it is because of the file not found or index error, isn't it? So if I move this piece of code up here, the error is going to change for me, because that is what will cause the problem this time. So let me go up here and put this, and if I try to run this program now, it will give me index error, out of range, right? So can you please quickly make the change in the existing program, just putting as e, and try to display the type of the exception. So there is one more variation of exception you can try. So let me name it as file3 here. Okay, so if you don't want to put it in one single line, I could have as well put it like this. Remember we were doing it like this as e. So I'll make it e1 here, e1 here, and e1 here. And then I'll copy this block and I'll put one more block under this block, right? So this will be index index. So just 1 minute, I'm trying to. So where is my browser?
So you say index.
Yeah, I'm just trying to copy that so that I don't have typing error or something. So I'll say index, right, error, and I'll make it e2 and e2, right. Now this way also, if I run one single a single try has a multiple except blocks. Why? Because when I'm executing my try piece of code or try block, it could be causing different kinds of error for me. So if I run this program, it will be similar to what we just did, but except that you have put it in separate blocks. We could have done it with a single block as well, as we saw some time back, right? So maybe this is something you can try it out later on. I will share this file with you from in Bitbucket. Okay. Now another thing we can look at is exception. So sometimes it is possible that if you encounter an issue, then you might want to throw an error. So for example, uh, when you go to an ATM and if your balance is, let's say, less than 0, so it will prompt you with an error saying insufficient balance, right? So it could be a business use case that if balance is 0, show a prompt error message stating that there is no money or something like that, right? So in that case, Python gives us an ability to raise an exception also. You can say raise any error which you want to raise. So it could be index error or arithmetic that divide by 0 error which we just saw, right? So any kind of error you can generate, and then you can catch it as well. So let's say you catch it, and then you can display the type and the value and whatever you want to do with that. So there is an ability provided in Python where you could even throw your own errors, or you can call it exception as well, right? So if I run this program, what will happen? Right click, run as. It is showing me a name error. I could have caught it with the name error as well, right? But we know that exception is a super class, so it will catch that, isn't it? But if you put some other exception here, let's say this one, or for example index error, then it will not catch it. It will be thrown and the program will be terminated, meaning that if I put anything out after here, print after exept, right? Now in this case it will print this because I'm catching that name error, isn't it? If I right click and run as, it will display this. Why? Because I have got the name error here. But what if I put an exception or an error which is not caught by this block? So let's say I put here index error, for example. So this name error which is thrown by this block will never be caught by this, right? Neither it will come here, neither it will display this, and it will show an error which is if I execute here, run as. So can you see this as red here and in the console? So this is the actual error that has happened and we have not handled it in our program. Is that right? Okay, so can you try this one out also? And that's all for exception handling. We'll continue with other topics in our next sessions.